Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro reiterated that the country does not need licenses to continue promoting national hydrocarbon production and its economy. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum called on the Mexican people to look ahead following the arrival of new members of the nation's Supreme Court of Justice. And in Palestine, Israeli occupation forces continue attacking Palestinians at aid distribution centers. Nearly 40 civilians were killed in the last 24 hours in Gaza. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro reiterated that the country does not need licenses to continue promoting national hydrocarbon production and its economy. During his television program Con Maduro Más, the Venezuelan president highlighted that the country's hydrocarbons engine is producing close to 1.1 million barrels of oil per day, despite the restriction of licenses to oil companies by the United States government as part of its criminal measures of coercion against the people. In that sense, President Maduro stated that Venezuela is a free, independent and sovereign country that will not be coerced by the U.S. imperialism or its illegal sanctions.
El motor hidrocarburo tiene 4 componentes.
The hydrocarbon engine has 4 components: oil, and we are already close to 1,100,000 barrels per day with our own lung. That they say that such and such a company left, that it returned, not that it left, not that they took away the license of such and such a company, I am not going to name it. That they took it away, that they took it away, that they put it away, that they put it away, take away what you want to take away. Put what you want to put. Venezuelan oil will continue to grow in its production with its own lungs, without depending on anyone. Venezuela does not need licenses. Do we need a license to breathe? Imagine if we needed a license, not that the United States has not approved the license for Venezuelans to breathe, one's eyes would roll back in one's head. But they did approve it, thank goodness. We need a license to have 2 hands to work and produce. There go the empires with their arrogance that believe that with a license they can govern the world. Venezuela is not governed with a license. We are free, independent, rebellious and sovereign, and we will continue to grow in the production of hydrocarbons.
Venezuelan authorities held a press conference to provide updates ahead of the upcoming first Agro-Alba Fair. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Hill announced preparations for the Great Agro-Alba Expo Fair to be held this Thursday, June 5th and Friday, June 6th. Hill explained that this innovative integration mechanism of ALBA TCP aims to promote productive investment and strengthen food sovereignty, promoting sustainable development. According to the International Center for Productive Investment, Agro-Alba lays the foundations for inclusive and sustainable economic development for the benefit of the region and the promotion of Petrocaribe and ALBA TCP.
El Agroalba, como ustedes saben, es una iniciativa que surgió por idea.
Agroalba, as you know, is an initiative that arose from the Presidential Summit on December 14, 2024, when we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the Bolivarian Alliance of the Peoples of Our America. The presidents, heads of state and governments, and prime ministers called for the creation of this initiative, which kicks off with all ALBA member countries and beyond to produce, invest, and create a shield, we could say, of food security and sovereignty for ALBA, for the Caribbean, and for the Latin American region.
El ALBA para el Caribe y para la región latinoamericana.
Secretary General of the Bolivarian Alliance, Jorge Arreaza, said they expect to meet Agro-Alba's goals to meet the needs of all ALBA countries.
como decía el canciller de Venezuela.
As I say to the Venezuelan foreign minister, the ALBA Secretariat is very grateful for this proposal from President Nicolás Maduro. We already had the president of PetroCaribe as a great tool for the development of countries and for generosity and cooperation. In that same spirit, Agro-ALBA is being created so that we can use those 58 million hectares of land in all our countries and the waters of all our countries to produce food and to meet our needs.
Para producir alimento para satisfacer nuestras necesidades.
In other news, Brazil hosts the 11th BRICS Parliamentary Forum that will count on the attendance of delegations from 31 legislative bodies and some 150 parliamentarians from 15 countries. From Tuesday, June 3rd to Thursday, June 5th, the Brazilian Parliament will be hosting international debates on legislative initiatives in areas such as artificial intelligence regulation, global health, climate crisis, and economic development. The event kicks off with the encounter of BRICS women parliamentarians, in which they will address the role of women in the digital era in the fight against the climate crisis and their function as agents and beneficiaries of financing. Meanwhile, the chairs of the foreign affairs committees of the BRICS parliaments will further meet to discuss the strengthening of trade among the member countries. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum called on the Mexican people to look ahead following the arrival of new members of the nation's Supreme Court of Justice. The head of state pointed out that the work of those who leave the country's top court should be reviewed, but that it should not be a matter of persecution. She highlighted the autonomy of the judiciary and that the new members must ensure true access to justice without conditions or persecution. The president also declared that as of September, the new members must ensure an environment of honesty, trustworthiness, and access to justice. In Mexico, Mixteco indigenous lawyer Hugo Aguilar is said to become the next president of the Supreme Court of Justice and the first to be elected to that position by popular vote. The National Electoral Institute reported in its latest update that 87% of the votes for the presidency of the country's highest court have been counted. The lawyer, who was an advisor to the Zapatista movement, has almost 5 million votes compared to over 4.6 million votes for Lenia Batres. This Sunday, Mexico successfully held elections for 9 ministers, 386 federal judges, as well as magistrates and state judges in 19 states. In Colombia, it has been 50 days since the trial of former President Álvaro Uribe began for the alleged crimes of witness tampering, bribery, and procedural fraud. The defense summoned Samuel Arturo Sánchez Cañón, who would now be willing to testify for his alleged participation in the bribery of the witnesses Carlos Enrique Vélez. They also summoned Darley Guzmán Pérez, alias Chopra, held in the Palmira prison, and 2 investigators of the Technical Body of Investigation of the Public Prosecutor's Office. The agency is trying to prove that the former president is responsible for having sought through emissaries witnesses to favor him in other processes in which he was linked to paramilitary groups. This trial, which marks a historic event by bringing a former president before a criminal court as a defendant for the first time, started in 2012. In Argentina, former president and leader of the Justicialist Party, PJ, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, announced her candidacy for a deputy for the third electoral section of the provincial elections to be held on September 7th. She confirmed so on an interview in the Minuto Uno program. In this context, Fernández criticized President Javier Milei and expressed her concern for the future of Peronism. Thus, the leader attached importance to unity within the party. Likewise, she warned that a defeat in the province could bring about repercussions nationwide. In addition, the former head of state rejected criticisms of her decision to run for a seat in the Buenos Aires legislature, arguing that politics must be seen as an opportunity for collective triumph. In Panama, increased violence over the past 31 days has set off alarms, with 50 people killed during this time. Authorities registered 46 men and 4 women killed violently. Among the provinces most affected are Panama with 19 homicides, Colón with 12, and the district of San Miguelito with 9. Most of the victims were young people. Gunshot wounds and stab wounds are the most common injuries according to official reports.
Edificio en construcción, un anexo del Hospital del Niño.
In Russia, the government's investigative committee confirmed on Tuesday that the recent explosions in Bryansk and the Kursk regions have left 7 people dead and 113 injured, were terrorist attacks ordered by the Ukrainian regime.
The Investigative Committee of Russia classified the facts of explosions on railway sections and bridge structures in Bryansk and Kursk regions, which led to the derailment of several civilian trains, as terrorist acts. It is evident that the terrorists, acting on the orders of the Kyiv regime, plan everything with maximum precision so that hundreds of innocent civilians would come under their attacks.
A 5.8 magnitude earthquake hit western Turkey and nearby Greek islands on Tuesday early morning hours before a quake struck off the south coast of Crete. In the resort town of Marmaris, the ensuing panic left 1 person dead and at least 70 injured. The European Mediterranean Seismological Center said the quake happened at a depth of 68 kilometers. Turkish Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya said the deadly victim was a 14-year-old child in the resort town of Fethiye. The teenager was brought to the hospital but could not be saved. Disaster management teams were deployed to assess the damage. And we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The United Nations denounced Tuesday that Israel the Palestinian people to 18% of the Gaza Strip territory. The multinational organization said that the confinement of the Palestinians to that 18% of the territory was the result of the increasing military expansion of the Israeli forces who control the remaining area. The organization also indicated that almost 200,000 Palestinians have been forcibly displaced in the last weeks due to the continuous bombardments. It also accused the Israeli forces to attack a humanitarian aid distribution point in Rafah, where at least 3 Palestinians were killed and 35 others injured. Palestinian health authorities reported that Israeli occupation forces killed nearly 40 civilians in the last 24 hours in the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Health Ministry said that deadly victims and more than 200 injured were at the humanitarian aid distribution center in Rafah. According to eyewitnesses, Zionist troops attacked the area with artillery and warplanes while civilians waited for the delivery of supplies. Palestinian health authorities reported that the Zionist troops have killed over 54,470 people and injured more than 124,000, mostly women and children, since October 7, 2023.
They leave them in a courtyard that is around 1 to 2 hectares. They throw the goods there, and the goods that are placed there are not enough for roughly 2,000 people, while around 10,000 had gathered there. That is what I saw. 2/3 of us went through at the risk of death. I swear, it's like we died 500 times in an hour. I swear, there are martyrs left inside there that no one can reach. And I swear 2/3 of the people who went inside left empty-handed.
I start heading out at 3 a.m. and get there, then get shot at. So I lay low on the ground between the others. When it turned 5:03 a.m., I raised my head back up to see people walking out with aid boxes. But what about those martyrs left on the ground? Until when will we continue to live in humiliation, oppression, and hunger? I swear, I can't afford to buy a kilogram of flour that costs 40 shekels. Where would I get it from?
On Tuesday, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi arrived in Beirut, reaffirming the Persian nation's support for Lebanon amid ongoing Israeli aggressions. Foreign Minister Araghchi underscored that Lebanon's independence and sovereignty continue to bear much significance for the Islamic Republic and the broader West Asia region by extension. The Iranian Foreign Minister arrived in Lebanon's capital following an official visit to Egypt. On Tuesday, Israeli airstrikes on a residential building in Beirut's southern suburbs killed several civilians, including an official with the country's Hezbollah resistance movement and his son.
The Islamic Republic of Iran completely supports Lebanon's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. We condemn the occupation of parts of Lebanon by the Zionist regime and support all efforts by the government and the people of Lebanon to expel the occupiers by any means, including through diplomacy.
In other news, the United States moved forward with the withdrawal of its military personnel after abandoning 2 strategic bases in the Syrian province of teleSUR. Armored vehicles and trucks loaded with logistical equipment departed from U.S. bases in Syria, including the Al Omar oil field, the largest in the country. After the withdrawal, the armed group Syrian Democratic Forces deployed to the abandoned positions with the aim of controlling the area. According to the U.S. Department of Defense, the plan is to reduce the number of troops to less than 1,000 and close at least 8 military posts. In South Korea, with nearly 95% of ballots counted in the snap presidential elections, Liberal Democratic Party's candidate Lee Jae-myung is set to become the country's new president. Precisely, Lee has obtained 48.85% of the votes, while his main challenger, conservative Kim Mon-soo, won 41.99%. Nearly 80% of the country's 44.4 million eligible voters cast ballots, according to an interim tally, which represents one of the highest turnouts for a presidential election in the Asian nation. As vote counting is still underway, Kim has already conceded defeat and congratulated Lee. For his part, Lee has told supporters that one of his main tasks is ensuring a peaceful Korean peninsula, going to pursue dialogue with North Korea. The winning candidate will be sworn in on Wednesday for a single full term of 5 years without the typical 2 months transition period.
I will find a path for South and North Korea to coexist and achieve mutual prosperity through dialogue, communication, and coexistence. I will stabilize the Korean peninsula as soon as possible in order to minimize the risk for Korea and make sure that people's livelihoods are not worsened because of the security in the Korean peninsula. While politicians may clash over interests and draw lines between factions, the people are not bound to follow those divisions. People are the master of this nation, and politicians are workers who are responsible for people's lives. Political quarrels may not be avoidable, but people don't have to be divided and hate each other.
Let's now learn a bit more on who Lee Jae-myung is. Lee hosted the previous presidential election to Yoon Suk-yeol and then went on to lead the Democratic Party to a landslide victory in last year's parliamentary election and was the driving force behind the opposition-led campaign to remove Yoon from office. The human rights lawyer turned politician served as governor of South Korea's most populous Gyeonggi province and mayor of Seongnam City near Seoul. On the other hand, Lee faces 5 ongoing trials for corruption and other criminal charges. Most of his ongoing cases have been postponed by the courts until after the election, and he was denied any wrongdoing, insisting the charges are politically motivated. If elected, he will be the first person to take high office in South Korea while under active prosecution. And with this information, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.